Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Marketing Live for Thursday, April 27th, 2017. We're looking forward to today's topic about intercollegiate athletics as a brand building partner. I'm Rob Zinkin, coming to you from Bloomington, Indiana, on the beautiful campus of Indiana University, where I serve as Associate Vice President for Marketing. Marketing Live is part of the Higher Ed Live Network. Our episodes offer you direct access to the best and brightest minds in education. We invite you to be a part of our live broadcast by sharing your knowledge. You can participate in today's discussion by tweeting us using the Higher Ed Live hashtag. All of our episodes are free and easy to access in the video archives at higheredlive.com, or take Higher Ed Live with you on the go by subscribing to the podcast. Higher Ed Live is produced by M. Stoner, a digital-first agency committed to tailored solutions that drive real results. Trusted by thousands of higher ed professionals, M. Stoner webinars are jam-packed with timely, strategic, and actionable knowledge. Check out their library of on-demand content, everything from digital storytelling to myth-busting websites. We'll be tweeting out a link to that in just a moment. Again, very excited about our topic today and also excited about our two guests. First, Ryan Bradley, who is Associate Vice President for Marketing and Brand Strategy at the University of Alabama. Ryan joined Alabama last year, and he has a wealth of experience in athletics administration, which we'll get to hear about, including Senior Associate Athletic Director roles at both the University of Missouri and University of Memphis. So Ryan, great to have you with us.
Thanks for the invitation, Rob. Excited to be here.
And next, Dave Sontag. And Dave, did I get your pronunciation right? I did not ask that in advance.
That's good.
Which I should have. Dave is Associate Vice President for Marketing and Communications at Gonzaga University, his alma mater. And Dave brings both higher ed and agency experience to the table. He's been with Gonzaga since 2008. So Dave, thanks so much for joining today as well.
Absolutely.
Well, great. Before we get into the topic at hand, I'd like to elaborate on those brief introductions and ask if you could each share something about your professional journey that has had a lasting impact over that career path. So Ryan, let's begin with you.
Sure. And as you mentioned at the top, I have a little bit of a non-traditional path in the sense that I spent the first 10 years of my career in college athletics. And so I've got to learn a lot about the academic side of the house and the transferable skills. And I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about the differences in the two, but enjoyed that, really felt like it equipped me for this role at the University of Alabama in a lot of ways. But probably the most unique thing about my career path is that prior to being at the University of Missouri and the University of Memphis, I spent 7 years at a small college in Oklahoma, Rogers State University. It's a Division II institution of about 4,500 students. And in that role, I actually had a number of roles. As you do in the small college setting, I wore a lot of hats. I learned to play a lot of different roles and be that utility player for the athletic department when it came to marketing and communications, PR, fundraising, you name it. So I spent about 5 years in various roles and later had the opportunity to be the athletic director at that institution. So at 28 years old, I found myself running an athletic department in charge of 12 sports programs and really probably learned more than anything a strong appreciation for being that decision maker and having the buck stop on your desk. And that has helped me tremendously in my subsequent roles to have a better understanding and appreciation for my job, for my boss and the role that they have to play. And it's easy a lot of times when you're sitting across from the VP or the president to be that guy with all the answers. But when you've sat in that chair and you've had the responsibility and the weight on your shoulders to make some of those hard decisions, it changes your perspective a little bit. And it has made me a better support player and a better sounding board for my bosses moving forward, having had a few years to be in that role as an AD. So that's something that I've carried with me, and it's pretty unique to have that opportunity pretty early in my career.
That's great. And Dave, how about you? Something that has influenced you and helped shape your career?
Yeah, well, you mentioned Gonzaga is my alma mater, so I'm going to go all the way back to my undergraduate days at Gonzaga and reference my advisor, who was a journalism professor, Dr. Michael Kirkhorn. Unfortunately, he's passed away since, but you know, he really left a mark. And I remember in a fond way, he would talk about all of us up here in the Northwest and Spokane as just being too nice. He was, one of those longtime reporters, and he was originally from New York. And he was worried about us. Like, oh, you guys are just way too naive. You're too nice. And that was probably me. And so, he really worked to instill, you guys got to really sometimes go after things. You don't just email somebody and wait for an answer. You don't just call them on the phone and leave a voicemail. You need some information, you go after it. Or if you've got something you need to make happen for your newspaper, your organization, whatever it is, you need to make it happen. The onus is on you. So that's something that served me well, certainly in my first job at an ad agency, and I think continues to serve us well, and really is kind of the character of Gonzaga, over the years, really just going after it, not waiting for things to come to us.
Well, of course, when we think about Gonzaga, basketball comes to mind in the context of intercollegiate athletics. The same with Alabama, it's football, and we have a lot to get into in terms of your experiences at your respective institutions. But as a starting point, how do you go about framing intercollegiate athletics within the larger mission of the institution when you look at your respective roles as being the brand manager for your institution? And Ryan, let's start with you again.
Sure. Well, I think we've all heard the vernacular that athletics is the front porch of your institution. At Alabama, there's no denying that we have a very big and very beautiful front porch when it comes to what our athletic department does to really open the doors of our institution to not only our stakeholders, but to the nation and a global brand, in large part because of the success of our athletics program. So, rather than put our head in the sand and say, hey, there's no correlation there, or let's cower in fear from what some of the liabilities might be that come along with having that big spotlight of your athletic program, really looking to embrace it and use it as a launching pad for engagement with our stakeholders of all kinds, whether that's our rabid fans across the country, or perhaps more importantly for our goals, our students, the parents of our students, prospective students, alumni, donors, et cetera. And so really looking for opportunities to find that alignment with the athletic department. What are our shared values and our common goals, and educating students, and a commitment to excellence that we feel like is unique to Alabama, and not just in the athletics realm, but also on the institutional side as well. So, just recognizing that this is the front porch, and then making sure that we're doing a good job of communicating that this is bigger than just what's going on the football field on Saturdays.
And Dave, I'll pose the same question in
Sure.
terms of finding that alignment with athletics and the institutional mission.
Yeah, I can agree with just about everything that Ryan said there. And, we certainly embrace athletics. At the same time, basketball in so many ways put Gonzaga on the map. We've been around 130 years now, but really the last 20 years of Gonzaga basketball has just, catapulted the image of the university. So, it's really been something we've reflected on. How much do you lean on that versus not? And, most certainly we make sure to communicate that our mission is to educate students and help them grow. And as a Jesuit Catholic university, that's mind, body, and spirit. So we lead with that. We hope to put out people who lead lives of purpose and shape their professions and serve their communities. And, athletics goes hand in hand with that. If you think about what athletics does for the student athletes at the school, it is that growth in mind, body, and spirit. Our student athletes, as I'm sure at Alabama and many other schools, they learn that grit, they learn courage, they learn how to deal with adversity, they learn family. How do you work with a team and work through issues? And, all of those things are part of our educational mission. So we can really point to athletics as a very visible, exciting sort of beacon of what our mission is. And as Ryan said, and we've all heard that front porch, it makes sense to point to that, and that's what can bring people in, whether they're benefactors, potential students, and really then, go from there. So we we lean on athletics often to introduce people to the university, and then we feel like it's our job in marketing communications to fill in the rest of the picture.
And to follow up on that and ask exactly how you have filled in the rest of that picture, I know at Gonzaga you've recently gone through a brand strategy process and brand refresh. So could you talk about, Dave, how that process worked in terms of where and how intercollegiate athletics fit into that?
Yeah, absolutely. So our partners in athletics were key critical collaborators at the table in that brand refresh. And it was thinking about, okay, so much visibility has been brought to Gonzaga over the past 20 years. We're on this national stage. How can we make sure that other aspects of the university, academics, student life, community service, all these things are on that same national stage? And so we thought about sort of the journey of athletics, and it sort of unfolded before people's eyes on that national stage. Back in 1999, these kids out of nowhere, and what people would pronounce as Spokane in Gonzaga, wrong pronunciations there, but introduced to this little school 20 years later in the tournament every single year, and now we appear in a national championship. So how can we bring it to that same level? And what we thought about is, the path of our students and our faculty, our employees really kind of unfolded in a similar way over time here at Gonzaga. Unexpected things have happened for people. And, there's a little bit of this secret sauce that happens here. So we wanted to capture that. And to do it, we tried to, look at a lot of the qualities that people see on the court, the tenacity, the excellence, the grit, the courage. And so we wanted to build a brand for the university which was true to ourselves, that reflected a lot of those same qualities. And we ended up grounding that brand in a concept that we call Unfold. And so we talk about how people come here with Gonzaga with the essence that they have and the passions they have, and those things flourish here because of the kind of community that we have. The Jesuit Foundation, the faculty, those things flourish, and unexpected, exciting things happen for people just as they've happened for our basketball program.
And Ryan, just as you said, in terms of athletics being such a front porch to the institution and often a primary window in which people view the university or perhaps first view the university, what have been some of the strategies that you've taken there in terms of, as you said, embracing athletics and especially being new there and seeing opportunities to further embrace or drive alignment between athletics and what's happening in central marketing?
Yeah, so for us, the first thing was to establish those strong relationships with our colleagues over in the athletic department. That was an easy transition for me. I was already in the SEC and working in the athletic department at Mizzou prior to coming here. And so reaching out and making those connections with my colleagues in the athletic department, and first establishing that level of trust and that open line of communication was key. And then really exploring the opportunities for partnerships and synergy and aligned goals was the next step. And so we've been very fortunate that the athletic department here has been very receptive to those type of partnerships. And we serve on each other's committees and are brainstorming on opportunities to help one another. Like I mentioned earlier, finding that common ground. What are some of the goals that we have that we can partner with one another on? When it comes to the athletic department, it's important for them to tell the story of how their athletes and their coaches are engaged in academic pursuits and those success stories. Where are they engaged with campus leadership, the community impact that they have, and we can help them tell those stories and foster those stories and devote resources to make sure that those stories are told not only on their platforms but through ours as well. And then on the flip side of that, we're gonna promote the important role that athletics plays in the culture of our general student body, of our alumni, prospective students and their families. And we know that it's an important part of the life and the fabric of being a University of Alabama stakeholder. And so, we want to portray that in the way that we promote and market the university, and not just leave it to athletics, because it's much bigger than just what happens between the lines. The pageantry of college football in the South is something that, a lot of people are enamored with. And, we've seen great success here in terms of out-of-state recruitment efforts. And our student body is now, over 60% out-of-state students. A lot of those students are drawn to the appeal of what goes into, being a part of a university that has a large athletics brand like we have here. And so we're exploring ways to really showcase that experience. What's it like to be a biology major sophomore student at the University of Alabama on a Saturday in October? And how can we help tell that story? Because it's something that a lot of students are attracted to, not just the ones that are going to be throwing passes and catching touchdowns. And so we want to tap into that. And athletics has been a great partner in helping us, gain access to that. We're helping them tell the story of student athletes who are three-dimensional, and vice versa. They're helping us with telling the story of how athletics is woven into the fabric of our institution as well.
Well, I want to build on that opening remark about relationship building, especially for any listeners who are looking to improve relationships or build better bridges with athletics. So more of a nuts and bolts type of question. How do your offices, central marketing for the university and then athletics, how do they interface on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis at Alabama and Gonzaga? Let's start at Alabama. And in terms of what that may look like from an organizational standpoint or an operations standpoint.
Yeah, so, athletic programs, everyone that I've ever been a part of is unique in structure, and they're evolving quickly with a heavy emphasis on those external roles. And so, there's no cookie cutter approach to that. But the first thing you got to do is assess who are the decision makers in the various areas. And there may be 3 or 4 or 5 individuals that you need to have those strong relationships with in order to accomplish the things that you need to accomplish and make sure that you're communicating the right messages to the right people. And so most of the time, it's not the athletic director who needs to be in the loop on that. They've got a lot on their plate, and barring, major issues, it's going to be that next tier of decision makers over marketing, over communications, over corporate sponsorships and things of that nature that you need to make sure you have a strong, open dialogue with. And so, as I came to Alabama, the first step was really getting the lay of the land and understanding who those people were and making sure they knew who I was and what my role was and what our objectives were, and seeing how we can help one another. And so that's led to, establishing good relationships and an open line of communication with, our senior associate over communications when it comes to issues that might be PR related, both university or athletics. It's great for us. It's a two-way street. They need to hear from you when there's a potential issue that might be about to bubble up that could affect them, and you certainly want them to return the favor and make sure you're in the loop on the front end and not in a reactive mode to things that we know can happen in athletics that can be a liability, not just from a PR standpoint, but can have larger implications to your brand and how you're marketing your programs. We don't want to be out promoting certain things on our social media platforms and be completely tone deaf to there's an issue happening in athletics right now. Maybe this isn't the best time to be, promoting that message. And so those are key. Marketing the same way. We've really explored opportunities of how can we've got a captive audience of 100,000 people on 7 Saturdays in the fall. And where are the opportunities for us to get the key messaging that we want those stakeholders to hear about the University of Alabama? How can we leverage that to the benefit of the institution without overstepping our bounds or infringing on things like, the rights of the multimedia rights holder? And so I've gone a step further and established the same type of relationships with the general manager of Crimson Tide Sports Marketing, our Learfield partner here on campus, and make sure they're part of that conversation, because it can be, you don't want to step on a landmine and potentially damage any of those relationships in the process of trying to do something good. And so, like I said, I serve on our licensing committee on campus that's made up primarily of athletics employees, but myself and Vice President Bonin are on that committee. We've served on each other's hiring committees for multiple positions and helping each other fill those roles. And so it just creates that synergy that you're looking for. And at certain points in the year, we're making sure that we're sitting down, whether it's one-on-one or in a group setting and brainstorming on what are the upcoming opportunities. As we got into the college football playoff, they're really busy, but my eye is on, okay, we're going to be in Atlanta for the SEC championship, or we're going to be in Florida for the college football playoff. Those are key markets for us in terms of student recruitment, and where are the opportunities for us to explore how we can benefit from the exposure the athletic department's going to get through some of those postseason opportunities, and be prepared for that, and in constant communication with them about what they're doing and what our plans are. So.
And at Gonzaga University, Dave, what does the structure of your working relationship?
Yeah, we have a fantastic relationship with athletics here, and we work very closely. They're almost probably on a daily basis. There's some sort of interaction between our office and athletics. In more of a formal structural way, we have one of our directors here in marketing is a liaison to athletics and meets at least monthly, if they're not already meeting on other things, with the associate director for athletics, external operations. So they can meet regularly. They talk about what our plans are, what their plans are. There's always interfaces on marketing strategies, development and fundraising strategies, alumni engagement strategies. So we know what one another is doing, and we're not stepping on one another's toes. We can look for ways to support one another. There's also the public relations piece that we've been talking about. It's good to know the ins and outs, what's going on, what issues could be out there. How are they being handled? So everybody's on the same page and there's never any surprises. We also have an integrated marketing team here at Gonzaga. So that's university-wide folks across the university who have any role in marketing or communications. So we meet quarterly. Athletics is a big part of that group as well. So that's another opportunity for everybody to share what their upcoming plans are, any challenges they have, any ways that people can help one another out. Couple other areas we work a lot together on. One is trademark, protecting our brand. And as the profile of the university has gone up, that's more and more of an issue, and sometimes it's very intentional. And you think, well, what is this business thinking? They've got a replica of our mascot, doing things that we would never be okay with, all the way to very unintentional stuff, producing a TV ad with a banner of Gonzaga. Sometimes that is a little intentional, but there's just a lot of examples that we have to keep our eye out really on a daily, weekly basis and be very consistent with how we treat all of those situations so that we can protect our trademark. We've recently hired a trademark manager who helps us with all those issues based out of athletics. And then the other thing I was going to mention is compliance, which is such a big thing. And on the marketing side, and athletics is supportive of us shedding that light on athletics and using it as a lever for other purposes, but we have to be really careful, of how we use student athlete images. And sometimes there's great ideas and everybody's really excited about it. And then it's like, ooh, wait a minute, can we put this student athlete in this direct fundraising pitch, or, ooh, here's the perfect photo, but oh no, in the background, there is a banner of some other organization that is not an athletic sponsor. So we've really found that anything we do in marketing, we have a close relationship with our compliance team and athletics. Anything we do, we run it by them. I mean, even if we feel like, okay, this is 100% okay, we still just run it through them, just to make absolute sure there isn't something we've missed, or that there's something new, and that way they're on the same page with us.
Ryan, your opening comments about wearing all hats and previous experience as an AD at a smaller school really resonated. We have 8 campuses at Indiana University, of course, flagship campus with the Indiana Hoosiers, but we also have athletic programs, and then we have 5 regional campuses that compete at the NAIA level. And I was at one of those campuses when we launched intercollegiate athletics, and so I saw firsthand how that was such a significant part of growing enrollment, of building pride, of expanding exposure. So even for students who were not planning to be student athletes or not even going to games, for example, but they still wanted to go to a school that had that excitement, pride, everything that comes with athletics. And so I think the power of athletics extends whether you're at major Division I or at a small school. So transitioning to Alabama, I'm interested how those experiences translated in terms of helping members of your team understand some of those nuances that you may not get at the surface of some of those interactions, but really an understanding of the day-to-day issues and challenges that your colleagues in athletics face, and how you could help provide perspective for those to members of your team in central marketing.
Yeah, and I think Dave touched on some of that, and it sounds like, at Gonzaga, they're very cognizant of, wanting to be aware of some of the implications that can come along with promoting student athletes individually, and the compliance issues that are associated with some of those things. And again, I think it comes down to really being in having that open dialogue and making sure they know what you're doing before you do it. Because if you haven't worked in that world, or you haven't worked closely alongside some of those individuals for a long period of time, you take for granted some of the things that you don't have as much freedom of movement in athletics sometimes. And sometimes it's not even a rule. Sometimes it's the sensitivity of what a coach is okay with and not okay with as it relates to, promoting certain players or their assistant coaches, or the athletic director may have preferences as well. And so you don't want to assume anything as it relates to, hey, this is a great idea. It may seem like it on the surface, putting the returning star running back out there as a way to promote the institution might seem like a no-brainer, but there are constantly issues going on below the surface that the public doesn't know about, and we probably would prefer the public not know about. And so you have to have the trust level with the athletic department that they can trust you with that information, or at least a limited scope of that information, because you have their best interest in mind as well with what you're trying to accomplish. And so I think that trust is key to the whole piece. But really, what I've tried to do with our team is to present a united front to make things easy for athletics. We've got a team of photographers and a team of videographers. We have our own social media people. They have all of the same, but really trying to create a conduit so that on a Saturday, when they have a full plate and then some, they're not hearing from 8 different individuals in my shop with 15 different requests for access to certain areas, or special exceptions in terms of certain individuals we maybe wanted to interview. We hope to have a relationship that allows us to be treated as as an asset and not as external media. But in order to do that, we can't make life harder on them, and they have to know that we're not going to do anything that would be perceived as a liability to them or make their job harder. And so, really getting our whole team together, and as it relates to things that we want to collaborate with athletics on or ask for their assistance with, really putting one united foot forward or ask forward on a weekly basis, or on maybe bi-weekly depending on the time of year, and say, hey, this is what our plans are. These are the asks we have from you, and being able to do that in a consistent approach makes it easier for them. As opposed to they've got a lot, they're hurting a lot of cats when it comes to not only shepherding these student athletes and coaches, but all the media requests and the scrutiny that particularly our football program is under. And we don't want to be one more thing that they have to be concerned about on game day. So we try to take, just having lived in that world before, try to take care of those requests early, make sure they know what our plans are early and that we're buttoned up, and that helps to alleviate any concerns. And then I make myself available, if there are any issues as it relates to members of our team, let those run through me, and we'll make sure they're addressed so that they're not having to deal with those. We've had very few, if any, issues, but I've really implored our team to go the extra mile in terms of making sure that we're doing the right things and we're above reproach in the way that we present ourselves when interfacing with athletics, because it's a very intense environment, and football and basketball obviously, but there's a high level of paranoia sometimes that comes along with a game day environment, and we want to make sure that they know we're on their team and that we have their best interests in mind, and we've done a good job of establishing that type of trust on both ends.
A quick reminder, if you have questions or comments for Ryan or Dave, feel free to join the discussion. Just use that Higher Ed Live hashtag on Twitter, and we'll get that question or comment in. So while seemingly Alabama's playing for a national championship in football every season, it seems like, Gonzaga, your incredible run to the championship game of the March Madness with your men's basketball program, knew a unique moment in the life of the institution. So Dave, I'd love to hear about the moment of that, being in the moment of that championship run during March Madness, and all the ways that you tried to take advantage of such a unique and incredible opportunity for your institution.
Yeah, you bet. Wow, what an amazing time. For me personally, as an alum, diehard fan, my family's fan, my wife works here as well, and she's an alum. So there were definitely tears shed in our household when Gonzaga won that Elite Eight game. Tears of joy. And so but we knew from that moment we had to really, really get to work. And so it was a strange time because we had the #1 ranking during the season. We got the #1 seed, and we made a calculated decision to plan for a possible Final Four appearance, which it was a really kind of a strange thing for us, with superstition and calculated risk, and being so busy with so many other things. We felt kind of strange doing that, but we did it, and we're sure glad that we did. We researched all of the potential locations for benefactor gatherings, for alumni rallies pre-game. We got our budget in order. We thought about, okay, how are we going to leverage our brand should this happen? I've joked I've never used so many conditional words in my life as during the tournament, because we don't want to jinx things and say we are going to the Final Four. It was always, well, should this happen, or if that happens. But it was a lot of fun, and for me as a marketer, there's nothing better than taking a risk and planning something, and then lo and behold, it actually happens. And we have an amazing team here. I have to give just all the credit to them that when we won that Elite Eight games, things just rolled out. We had the big text string going, and it was like, okay, boom, Final Four website is up, ticket sales email is out, social media up. We just went down the line on our checklist there. So that worked really fantastic. And what we've really done to leverage the NCAA tournament over the past couple of years with this brand refresh is a brand advertising campaign that stretches between the WCC tournaments, or conference tournament, and throughout our run in the NCAA tournament. And what we've done with that is we've created a microsite, unfold.gonzaga.edu, where we really work to bring all those eyeballs and Google searches to one place. And we give them great video, great stories, and then we funnel them to strategic places. And so if you're on that site, there's really only 3 places you can go. That's Be a Zag, Hire a Zag, Support a Zag. So enrollment, fundraising, hiring graduates. And so it's really worked well when we look at the analytics and see how people are funneled, and we drive people to that site through mobile. When people search up Gonzaga on mobile, they get to the Unfold site. We have a banner ad campaign out there that drives them. Our social media is very intentional, tying into basketball just enough, but then very delicately and carefully turning to something about academics or something about social community life at Gonzaga. And, hopefully hooking people and getting them to that site where we can fill in a larger story about Gonzaga. And if I can just share a few facts, as marketers, I think we love hearing some of these statistics on just the amazing amount of attention with Gonzaga. And for us, these are big numbers. I don't know about other schools. Ryan, I'll have to follow up with you what happens when Alabama's in the championship. But we had 2 million web page views over the NCAA. So just over 3 months, we had 2 million web page views. We typically get about 8 million in a year. We had 350,000 people on our website on championship day. And I like to tout that, well, unfortunately, North Carolina beat us on the court that day. We beat them in Google. So more of the country was searching Gonzaga University on championship day than was searching North Carolina. So, you know, we've got to find a silver lining somewhere. And, you know, we had our service tells us 43.9 billion media impressions, news media, came during the tournament, and that's like 400 million in ad value. So, you know, you can't do anything to get that kind of exposure. So for us, it's like, well, what are we showing people who are coming to us? And so it's been that intentional effort to funnel that traffic to the Unfold site.
And going forward, what are your plans, you and your team and the institution, in terms of continuing to leverage that success and ride the wave of momentum? How do you see this helping your efforts going forward?
Yeah, well, I think that it still remains to be seen a bit, but the brand advertising campaign has worked really well. There's just so much residual excitement, you know, for Gonzaga to have been in a national championship game. You know, for example, we're putting together a photographic memory book that we're going to be giving to a lot of our, you know, some of our important Gonzaga family members here, benefactors and so forth. The Final Four site that we've created, we've kept alive. And it's sort of become a repository for great videos, you know, whether they're created by CBS or ESPN, great photos of all of our alums getting together and reuniting, and a collection of news stories from around the country. So we're kind of keeping that residual going, and we hope to see it have an impact. You know, here we are on yield season for enrollment. We hope to have some impact there. Certainly we should see a spike in inquiries going towards next year. We're already starting to see that spike to take advantage of. And then, you know, finally, for a private Catholic school like Gonzaga, private support is our lifeblood. And, you know, there's sort of been this challenge, and our president really talks about this, of, you know, folks think that, well, once you're in the national championship game, the NCAA truck backs up and dumps a bunch of cash on the university. And, you know, while all of this exposure will mean resources in the future, there is not that immediate dump truck on us. And we do still need to raise money for scholarships where we're short on that here at Gonzaga. Our endowment is not where it should be. We need a new science and engineering center. You know, so we have these needs that we're going to continue to leverage this excitement to have conversations with people, bring in new folks who want to be a part of what's going on at Gonzaga, and really help us, you know, maintain this whole new level of momentum.
Great. And the connection to enrollment, I want to circle back to Ryan and some of your comments about the boost that athletics can give in that area. You mentioned now with 60+% of your student body coming from out of state, and certainly your institution has experienced a transformation in terms of growth and becoming one of the fastest growing flagship universities in the United States. So in terms of how those measurements or tracking that you may have in place where you can see athletics giving a boost to the university, are there certain points that you adhere to in terms of key measurements, key metrics, where you can make the connection and your institutional goals, whether those are around awareness or specifically around enrollment?
Yeah, well, it's something that we have we've gotten more cognizant of in terms of being more intentional about tracking those numbers. We have this long range success story to talk about that obviously there are parallels in the growth and success of our athletic program over the course of the last decade with unprecedented growth at the institution. Just to give you the big picture, the University of Alabama has doubled its enrollment in the last 15 years. So to go from 17 or 18,000 students to almost 38,000 this past fall, it's not as simple as, well, you won a bunch of football games, so that many, that's what happened. But there certainly is a correlation, and it's one of a number of factors that's aided in the growth of our enrollment. But the story that we want to make sure that we're telling is it's not just more students, it's the caliber of students that we're getting here, and the successes that they're having when they leave here. So when you look at the average ACT score of an incoming freshman and how it continues to rise year over year, we love to tout that this past fall, our freshman class, 40% of them had a ACT score of 30 or higher, and I think that really blows people away. Well, we've got to do a great job of telling those stories, because the spotlight is huge on football at Alabama. We got to make sure it doesn't overshadow the success of our institution, but that people can make the connection and understand that's representative of the success and the caliber, the commitment of excellence that we have at Alabama. So, we have top 3 in the nation in national merit scholars. We had 4 Goldwater scholars this year, which led the country. Harvard was number 2. And so these are facts that, you don't hear about during the broadcast on Saturdays. And a lot of folks, when they think about the brand, they're going to think about Bear Bryant or Joe Namath or Nick Saban. We want to make sure they know about alums like Winston Groom, who wrote Forrest Gump, or E.O. Wilson, who's a Pulitzer Prize winner. And that's why we developed a national branding campaign, somewhat similar to what Dave alluded to. This past fall, we rolled out in conjunction with that institutional spot that we're all a part of making sure that we create. We really invested in a major production for our institutional spot that we get to air during all those athletic events. And to make sure that was a launching pad for us to do a national branding campaign. And my boss is credited with coming up with our campaign, which is Where Legends Are Made, the University of Alabama, Where Legends Are Made. And that speaks to the excellence and the success of athletics. And we know that may be the first thing that people think about when they hear that, but we're going to use that as a way to really tell the story of what's going on with our institution and the success of our students, of our faculty, of our alumni. And so we created a microsite, and we're driving all of our users to that Where Legends Are Made website. We're using hashtags on our social media platforms, and we've seen it embraced by the athletic department. So that's when you're really onto something, when you've got coaches and student athletes who are taking something that was built to really prop up and support and tell the story of the success of the university, and leverage it in a way that also speaks to the success of athletics. So that's been neat to see. To get more granular with it when we're talking about tracking success within the growth of student enrollment and recruitment efforts, we are using obviously all of those assets also in student recruitment and marketing, but we're also like I talked about, when we're playing in Atlanta, we know that that's a huge market for us in student recruitment, and so we're working with our admissions office on receptions and events that they're going to have there. We're using digital media assets and campaigns to drive attendance to those. We obviously are able. We're just in the last couple of years getting into the digital ad space and reallocating our marketing dollars there, where we all know you have a much easier time of tracking your ROI. And so we're able to see the success and the bump in interest, in clicks, and attendance at those receptions, and then on down into the funnel of applications and enrollees. And so, we want to shift that from an anecdotal story of, we won a lot of championships and our enrollment is booming, to, those direct correlations and how we are using and leveraging that spotlight that's on our athletic department, particularly during the fall, to really engage students and get them through the recruitment and admissions process. And so that's really a focus for us moving forward.
Great. Well, as we close, I want to ask you both for any other final thoughts or recommendations for marketing colleagues on ways that they could partner with athletics, and especially thinking about the benefit of having a nationally ranked football program or nationally ranked men's basketball program or women's basketball program, whatever the case may be, but still using athletics as an opportunity to further the institutional brand. So Ryan, let's start with you for any final comments or recommendations, suggestions that you would make to fellow marketers.
Yeah, I think it's like we talked about again and again. You need to embrace it, hug it, as we like to say. We're going to hug athletics. Athletics is our friend. We're going to build trust with our colleagues across campus and find those similar goals. But then, as marketers, I think we're storytellers, and there are great stories to be told through the vehicle that is athletics. And our focus, I tell our staff again and again, it's everything except what happens between the lines. And there's so many great stories to be told with the student athletes, with the coaches, with the alums who are back on our campus and have so many opportunities for touch points when they're here. It may be an athletic event that brought them back to campus, but there's opportunities for us to do story mining as it relates to really what is special to you about this place, and reflecting on their experiences here and how has it impacted their life and their career, perhaps their family, they met their spouse here. I mean, those are things that resonate with people from all walks of life and have nothing to do with what the score was at the end of the game. And so, it's really digging deeper, and some of those things are intuitive to us, but I don't see a lot of people out there that are being intentional about really going the extra mile and using their content teams to really mine those stories, tell those stories, and utilize these extremely valuable and cost-effective platforms that we have through our websites and our social media platforms to tell that story to the next generation or to reconnect with the generation that came before. And so we're seeing great success, and it's been an energy booster for our team. There's a lot of things that we have on our plate that we have to deal with, but sometimes, just having that connection for your staff and that opportunity to work on projects that involve a shiny toy like athletics is fun for your team, and it can be a morale boost. It can be something that can create that chemistry that you want between different members of your team to collaborate and work together. And so, there's a lot of upside there, and just encourage people to think outside the box and don't be afraid to try things, and don't have that mindset that, they've got people over there in athletics that take care of those things. There are a lot of stories that athletics is never going to have the time or resources to devote that you can tap into and really help yourself and the entire brand of the university.
And Dave, any other final thoughts or tips for marketing and communications pros at other schools?
Yeah, I would pick up on a lot of those same themes. I love, Ryan, how you talked about intentionality. And I think that's really what it's about is, you can, if you're so blessed as to have an athletic program like Alabama or what Gonzaga has accomplished, you can ride that along and see all the great metrics on your website and so forth, but it's what are you intentionally doing to show all those folks who are searching your school up, and how are you intentionally showing them different aspects of the university? And as Ryan said, athletics will cover what goes on between the lines. So there's the whole world beyond that. What is the band doing? Who are the cheerleaders? And you can bet there's scholars in that group who reflect your brand attributes. Or what are your players doing off the court? What can you take advantage of? Nigel Williams-Goss, our All-American, All-Academic team point guard this year, wrote a Players Tribune piece, which was just beautiful, and so much of it was about why he chose Gonzaga, and a lot of that was not the athletic piece. And so how can you grab things like that and put them out there, and tweet them and get them out on Snapchat, or sometimes do fun things. We used BuzzFeed this year and talked about the top 10 hairstyles of Gonzaga players through the years, so think about the whole sphere of excitement and passion that goes on around that athletic program, and harness that and put that out there, because people really want to be a part of that. Your alumni chapters, everyone else, they want to be a part of it. So there's just so much that can be done. Really think about those brand attributes that are seen on the field and the court, and how those relate to what's going on elsewhere.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks to both of you, Ryan and Dave. This has been just terrific, and I appreciate all the experiences, the insights, the recommendations that you shared with listeners today. Best wishes to you both for continued success in athletics, but certainly congratulations to you both on the work that you've done for your respective schools.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
And I'd love to see a March Madness at some point. Hopefully we'll see that.
I missed the last part of what you said, a March Madness
matchup between Indiana and Gonzaga.
Oh boy.
I'd love to see that.
Okay, well, bring it. We'd love it too. Absolutely.
Avery Johnson might have something to say about that too. Look out for the Tide.
All right.
Yeah.
Duly noted. Well, as always, thank you to M. Stoner for making Marketing Live possible. The Twitter back channel today. Be sure to get reminders about this and other episodes by subscribing to the Higher Ed Live newsletter. You can browse the archives at higheredlive.com or subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. Thanks again for tuning into Marketing Live on the Higher Ed Live network. I'm Rob Zinkin. Have a great day.